Old man doing a podcast. Real weirdos. We have English degrees. Real weirdos. We talk about movies for way too goddamn long. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Real Weirdos podcast. We're 2.5 white men with English degrees talk about movies for way too goddamn long. Today, we're talking about Titane by director Julia Ducournau. I believe that's what it is, French director.
Yeah.
If I got it wrong, I apologize, but I think that was pretty on point. But before we get to that, we're going to do some news. Going to change up the format a little bit. Put the timestamp at the bottom in the description if you want to skip it. But big Hollywood news, Bruce Willis. We've all been wondering for years what the hell was going on. Because he was in all those crap movies, and we're like, do you just not care? Like, it is weird. It was an interesting talking point for a lot of people who like movies. And then like Red Letter Media had their whole like double video expose kind of thing on it, which was interesting. But then it turns out he has aphasia and his cognitive decline. So he's quitting the movie industry.
Yeah. I was actually really sad to hear about this news. I'm not like a Bruce Willis like aficionado or anything, but I liked the movies that he was in, and I like Bruce Willis, and for some reason this one kind of hit me. It was sad. Like I don't know. It's just different for some reason for this one. Like actors, old actors fade away all the time. They have Alzheimer's or dementia. But for some reason for him to be like, conscious enough or like present enough to be like, okay, I need to step away because I know I have this problem. If it was him or his publicist, whatever, it just felt all kind of like sad and kind of just too soon. But it does kind of explain the artistic decline, I guess, if you want to say.
It may or may not. See, here's the thing, and I agree this is sad. It sucks. Bruce Willis has been in some awesome movies, mostly in the Wayback Machine at this point. But I think you and I talked about this at some point, Alex, where it feels like the last time he tried in a movie was maybe Looper, Moonrise Kingdom, like 2012 era. And ever since then, it's been an artistic decline. It's hard to say how much of that is tied together. But there are a lot of like stories about how Bruce Willis is kind of an asshole to work with and just didn't care a lot. But yeah, I don't know. It is difficult to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bummer to hear. I mean, aphasia is one hell of a disorder to have, Cognitive decline in general is awful, dementia, Alzheimer's, but aphasia, you just like, you lose this kind of ability to communicate, which is kind of what an actor does, essentially, is communicates different characters in many different ways. So it's kind of a really crappy disease to happen to anyone, but an actor, it's like you really get to see your career just end instantly. And it made me think of Robin Williams, it's just like an actor who like goes through a cognitive decline, just like kind of can see themselves slipping away. It's a bummer. And like, while yes, he did make a lot of schlock at the end of his career, I mean, we're talking there's characters that are just too iconic that he has created that are like some characters like that are literally in like the Mount Rushmore of all time, like protagonists and anti-heroes.
I mean, who are you thinking about?
Pulp Fiction, is the first one that comes to mind, obviously.
Buck. Wait, no, not Buck. What's his name in that?
Bud.
Die Hard. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfuckers.
The original John McClane. Yeah.
The most, like, one of the most quoted lines.
Dude, my aunt is such a huge Bruce Willis fan. She's like in her 70s now, but she's such a big Bruce Willis fan that for Christmas I found this image that's like this regal prince-like portrait, like this painting of Bruce Willis, and then got it like framed for her wall. Yeah, I don't know. So there's a little family tie in there too.
You're a nice kid.
I just thought it was hilarious.
You're a good boy.
Like you could put it on your dresser. If I had thought about it like more, I would have had like someone stencil in like to Natalie from Bruce,
Oh, nice.
That
but I didn't do that.
Just create a forgery.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Bruce Willis. I mean, nobody's in the span of time, assuming we continue as a race, looking back, people aren't going to remember these just like junk movies he made at the end of his career. No one ever like thinks or talks about those, and for good reason. Like, people are going to remember the Die Hards and the Loopers and Fifth Element and all this cool stuff that he did. And he's definitely cemented his place in cinematic history, and it sucks to see him go.
Yep.
So props to the man and sympathies.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, it's happening. It's fucking happening. The Crow reboot is happening. It's going to be starring Bill Skarsgård, and is being directed by a man named Rupert Sanders, who you look at his filmography and you're like, okay, yep. So he's directed Snow White and the Huntsman and The Ghost in the Shell, the American Ghost in the Shell. So 2 relatively average, forgettable movies.
Sounds like this will be a forgettable reboot.
Just don't do it. Anyone involved in it, if you're listening, just stop.
Skarsgård.
Let it be.
Come on. What are you doing?
It doesn't matter, man. Like, this is, I mean, at the end of the day, these are all jobs. And like, these movies have to happen because grips and gaffs and lighting techs and camera techs need to like put food on their table. So at the end of the day, it's like, make the stupid fucking remake, have all these guys that deserve to get paid, have all the people who don't deserve to get paid still get paid more than all the people who deserve to get paid, and then we can continue on with the 1 out of 1,000 movies we get to watch a year that's halfway worth it.
This one should be left the fuck alone, though. I hope it has
they all
production
should
woes.
be left alone.
This one especially, though, for the Brandon Lee reasons.
I was
like,
gonna
just
say.
Yeah,
let it,
I mean, yeah,
let
this
it
is a
be.
little bit of a disrespect the dead kind of thing.
I mean, I guess you could consider it as a tribute, and I'm sure that they'll spin it that way in their own brains, but nah, get the fuck out of here. Especially with this director, like, I don't know.
There'll be little Easter eggs.
Just leave it alone.
And like callbacks in the film. There'll be so much fan service, like just lip service to the audience, that I don't even know if I'll be interested in the story. But I will say I'm less angry than people who grew up with the film, right? Because I saw it, like, I really digested it the first time we did the episode. So for me, it's more like, okay, I mean, but I can feel like, do you feel like it's personal, Jesse?
I mean, let's be real here. There are many deeper tragedies going on in the world than a Crow remake. So I mean, of course, putting it in the context of like general global disarray and terrible things, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
But if we're just talking about like in the purely the cinematic space, which is what we do here, then yeah. It's a personal affront, and I say fuck you, fuck your movie, and I look forward to the 42 Metascore. That's my what's the word? That's what I'm thinking.
Do they have a date?
That's my prediction. I think it's supposed to be starting production this summer-ish.
Oh.
So we'll probably see it in a year or two.
Okay.
Yeah, and I hope it has the worst production, most troubled production, and it never sees the light of day.
You heard it here, folks.
And with that out of the way, let's talk about an insane psychosexual family drama from France.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
also
Called
like a car
Titane.
It's a car enthusiast wet dream.
In some ways.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I chose this movie because I guess I'm on a roll here with, like, psychosexual horror movies. We've done a lot lately, especially Alex and I. This is, like, the 4th one in 2 months.
Yeah.
We did Antichrist, High Life, Enter the Void.
Yeah.
The Gaspar Noé film. And now this one. So, if you guys don't know about Titane, people out there, it's a film where a lady has sex with a car, gets pregnant with a car baby, ? Goes on the run because she's a murderer, and then weasels her way into a household with a grieving father by pretending to be his missing son. It's a wild movie, and it's desperately uncomfortable. I think, and if you're okay with it being desperately uncomfortable and not caring about your boundaries, I think it's one of the most interesting movies of last year. And that's my summary. So, Jeff Casino, what'd you think of Titane, baby?
Titane really interesting and entertaining. Shot beautifully, lit incredibly. Like, you mute this movie and it would still be really, really fun to watch. It's visually striking. It's definitely French. It has that French kind of experimental feel to it. I can't really only put it that way, like a buttery scone. It just kind of feels.
Wait, what?
It feels like
well, how is this movie like a buttery scone?
It's not. It's just it has its own. It has its own flavor. You know.
Okay.
I found the psychosexual stuff to not be as overwhelmingly interruptive as I originally thought, so I was pleased with that. It has its place in it, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. The movie's short and gets to the point, which I really enjoyed.
You do love that.
And
sub 2 hours, I believe.
Yep, it's 1:47, and it is beautiful for that. And
it's so funny that's like just such a Jeff thing now. It's like under 2 hours, yes. Whereas
beautiful.
Alex is like, give me the 4.5 hour cut.
Give me the 4.5 hour cut of Dune, and I'll watch it. But Titane, it's good. I enjoyed it, and I think it was funny when it should have been. It really controlled tone well, which I think was its most. I think if I were to put like what's the most impressive thing about it is it controls its own tone beautifully.
Alex, what'd you think of Titane?
So I was lukewarm on it actually at first, and I still kind of am, but only because of I have there's a caveat to that. I want to just say this film is like winning lots of accolades, and it's very highly regarded. It didn't make the shortlist for the Oscars for, well, we know why now.
Yeah, but it won the Palme d'Or and got a 9-minute standing ovation at Cannes.
Yeah, so this movie is definitely like, it's not something to just like sneeze at. Right? The beginning, for some reason, the way that the movie was front loaded with such a cold like inhumanity really made me mad at the beginning.
Mad?
Yeah, I was like,
interesting.
I was like, this is like, to use one of your criticisms, I was like, this movie lacks humanity. There's nothing redeeming in this. Like, it was just front loaded with like this sheer brutality that I could not connect with at first. And it was really the scene where, well, I won't get into it, but like we learn that she's kind of the main character.
We can get into it. This is spoilers from here on out. Yeah.
We learn that she's like a serial killer, right? Like, and that there are bodies that she's been like leaving, littered all over France or whatever. And she's at like a party where she meets a girl where she starts to have like a little romantic like rendezvous with.
Yeah,
right?
It's one of the girls who she works with as like a dancer at this car festival, like nightclub kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
it's
like
like a
park
car
the cars
show
inside.
type of place.
Yeah, it's a car show, but with like strippers. It's interesting. Very French,
Very
I guess.
European,
Yeah.
So, yeah. At first, this movie made me really angry. I was like, I don't know. I just couldn't connect to anything of it.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
Do you, now having seen the full scope of the film, do you feel like that beginning anger that you had and the reasons you had for that anger were intentional?
Yes.
And do you feel like the movie played with that and transformed it?
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like it remedied itself, especially with the theme of machine coldness, if we want to call it that. But yes, it did redeem itself. But at first I was quite upset, actually. I was like, I didn't like the French music superimposed over the killing of all the people. And I was just like, I don't know. At first I felt like, okay, killing is cool. That's what you guys are going for. Being edgy is cool. But I gave the movie more time to grow, and I gave it a chance to, do its thing. But going back to what Jeff said, it's fucking gorgeous. This movie is beautiful. And some of the shots are just the scene where she walks into the car, and she has sex with it. That whole scene where like the camera's in front of the headlights and everything. Oh, it was beautiful.
Worth pointing out that this is only her second film. And
the actress
so I
or
am
the director?
The director.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I am really looking forward to what she's able to do next, because this is a really fascinating cinematic voice that she has.
Yeah, for sure. This film definitely has. hard to say a theme, but it definitely has an artistic through line that I sometimes felt like was lost when it would shift from one side to another with like the family drama. Like sometimes I would forget that she was pregnant with a car, you know?
That does crop up in weird ways. You do kind of forget that, and then you see images of her swollen belly and her trying to like tape it up because she's supposed to be this guy's son. Like,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
The way that this movie messed with my brain was ridiculous. I've seen it twice now, and it was one of those movies where I was sitting there with my mouth open at the edge of my seat the whole time, just like immersed in the tension, wondering what the hell this movie's doing to me. Like, this movie does not care about your boundaries. I might have said that already, but I'll say it again. It did not care about my boundaries in terms of like, man, she tries to give herself like an abortion kind of thing by sticking a thing up there, and motor oil comes out. She leaks motor oil from her nipples. It's a desperately crazy, uncomfortable movie. But for me, what it was is like, it starts out as she's a fucking sociopath that has a really extreme dissociative like element to her in terms of a lot of things, right? She's extremely dissociated from normal sexuality. She's only interested in autoeroticism, not the, stroke and choke, but, like literal cars. That's how she gets off. She's alienated to an extreme from her family. She hates her dad and whoever, I guess his girlfriend, to the point where after they find out that she's murdered somebody, she literally burns them alive in their house for no reason. And then she ends up in this place with the guy Vincent. We can bring his name into it, the father who lost the son, and she plays the son. And it's like, it becomes this weirdly touching movie about two sociopaths, or at least one sociopath and one deeply troubled, grieving individual that are just outliers. Especially her. She's a complete outlier who's, you think that she's unable to garner your sympathy, because why would she? And at the end, it's kind of about connection. It's weirdly about love. I'm not gonna try to do the Vin Diesel thing. It's about family, but it is. It's about the necessity of having somebody care about you and caring about somebody, no matter how much of a social outlier you are.
Yeah, it's strange that you say it's about love, because I felt at times the opposite, and I'll get to that in a second. But one thing that was very interesting about this movie is I felt like you couldn't judge it until the end. This is one of those movies that you have to watch all the way through. You can't have like a gut feeling on at this point, because my feelings on this movie changed so many times between I didn't like it, or okay, I get where she's going with this, or okay, now I'm kind of really into it now, and this story is getting kind of tense and gripping, which to me is the best kind of horror, is tension. And I will say that she's not. I will disagree that I don't think she's a serial killer. I think she's more of just like an opportunistic killer. I think she sees. She has a traumatic brain injury, which she has a titanium like a cap put into her brain.
Yeah, grafted into there.
So it kind of adds this whole element of like metal, like the inorganic and organic fusion, which is a theme that comes up quite often.
Mm-hmm.
But
car baby.
The first person she kills is a guy that's assaulting her. She's a dancer. She's obviously like putting herself out there sexually, and these lecherous guys are. She's very popular. She's signing autographs, and this dude's like attacking her, and so she kills him by shoving one of her hair, like, which becomes like her kind of her murder weapon of choice, is this hairpin. She shoves it in their ears, and like that scene. This is where the movie's starting to lose, because that scene was graphic and gross. Like he's like eyes rolling back and foam coming out of his mouth. I was like, oh, that's. All right, cool. I'm not really interested in ordering lunch right now, but
this film is a hard R.
Yeah, it definitely is.
It's amazing that it even got the R rating.
Yeah,
it's rough at times.
that scene when she's changing her appearance. I've seen a lot of painful shit on film, you know, people hurting themselves and whatnot. And for some reason, the body horror with this filmmaker, it just gets to me. Even more than like Cronenberg. Which I will say, she loves the genre. This director loves the genre of body horror. And she loves works that she says center around monstrosities. So with the context of the actual artist, the director, this film was more enjoyable to me. Like seeing her talk about it and things like that. David Lynch is one of her biggest influences, so I would be hard pressed to turn away from that. But I think that going to this like cold machine theme that I was talking about, there's something like machine-like almost about her, right? Like, I don't want to say she was like a T-1000 or something at some point. Like she's like looking in the mirror and she's taping her stuff up, and then she's bashing, you know, her nose against the sink. And all I could think of was when fucking Arnold is like cutting into his arm and shit. And I was like, you're like a car. You're like a machine. Like it's
like
weird.
that.
So like
the mingle of flesh and titanium that is the theme of this film, and also in the title as well.
Yeah, I did not know what the title was at first.
Well, as soon as she said it's made of titanium, skull, and it's in French, and they say Titane, I was like, oh, okay, there you go. I didn't know that otherwise. But real quick, it's like, I had this quick thought as a video game reference. It's to like, almost like in Grand Theft Auto when you're wanted. Remember when you would go into the pay and spray, and you would get your car changed? And you would come out, and you would not
That's
be
what she did.
She
Oh
went
my
in,
God.
she like went in, and she like, as a car, she like changed, she like battered it up, changed the license plate, bashed in the window a little bit, and like came out as like this different version.
I mean, that is a way to make comedic one of the most like intense, hellish self-transformations in cinema.
I was like, I had to turn away.
She breaks her nose.
Yeah, that
I'm
was
glad
awful.
I'm glad that you went there, Alex, though, because when I was doing my synopsis there, in terms of the themes, my brain stopped and images of that flitted by, and I was like, we got to talk about body horror, and especially that moment of transformation. And yeah, I think you're right. Like the affectiveness of her kind of body horror, this director's kind of body horror, is way crazier than anything I've seen. Maybe in anyone except like maybe some little weird David Lynch moments. Definitely more than Cronenberg, and you guys know I love my Cronenberg, but I love him in more like, it's more like fun to me.
Yeah.
This movie's not fun.
No.
It's not a pleasurable experience to watch, but as soon as you get through it, you're like, wow.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I've been really in that space in terms of the films I want to watch. I want movies that challenge me and that, I guess, push boundaries, but I want them to do it in like an artistic way, not some junk way. And at the end of this movie, I was just like full. I felt as full as she was, except with ideas and concepts, not a car baby. Can we talk about that, though? Because like there are more themes to tease out here, apropos, especially when we get into Vincent and what's going on in the second half of the film, which we haven't gotten into. But I just have to stop and ask, like, the only thing I can't figure out is, like, what the hell is the deal with the car baby? Is this just, it must just be pure metaphor, but I'm just not seeing the metaphor.
I can grasp at straws.
Grasp at a straw for me,
to understand, but I felt, and this also ties into I think the body horror thing that we're talking about, is I felt a lot of body control in this film as well. Not just body horror, but like this control over the female body. And like, you know, it's like, ask your father to check on you. She says, my stomach hurts. And he's like touching her in a very cold way. And it's very like artificial. And she's as much an object as the cars that she's dancing on. So there's this level of like control. Like she cuts her own hair, but then Vincent tries to cut her hair and only gets like half of it done at first, because it's like he's trying to like take over her image. So I kind of felt like that tied into like loosely maybe, and this is where I'm grasping at straws, because I felt like that theme was strong, but I thought it maybe tied loosely into the car baby, like an unwanted pregnancy, or a pregnancy that is forced or controlled upon you because you're not allowed to get rid of it. It's in their world impossible to get rid of. The way she's like punching herself in the stomach and groaning and crying in agony.
Yeah.
It's like a woman who's rejecting having this thing inside her that is uncontrollable. And it's very disturbing and very just grotesque and
yeah.
I really
Moms,
that's the only where I can go there.
Moms of ours, don't watch this. Don't watch this, Mom. Don't watch this, Jeff's mom. You guys aren't gonna like it. This is gonna be a little bit much.
Yeah.
I don't know, Alex, before we jump into Vincent and that whole dynamic, or maybe you could tie it in, but I'm curious what your read is on the car baby.
Well, I mean, it definitely ties into my theme of it almost being indistinguishable. Her, being indistinguishable from machine or human. And when I say machine, I don't mean mechanically. I mean more she's cold as fuck, right? And she's operates on this very just machine level. It's you'd flip a switch or something. And I feel that theme for me was the strongest and the one that I really latched onto. And I think that, I don't know, it starts from the very beginning. When she gets in the car accident and has the titanium put into the side of her head, the minute that occurs, she has this insane magnetism or fascination. So it's almost like a weird spiritual, it's like a fairy tale almost. This little girl that was somewhat normal gets in this car accident, right? And gets the thing put into her. And from then on, it's an inseparable quality that she has until obviously, the end. Yeah.
No, I love this reading because one of my biggest takeaways, besides I don't know, there are two levels, right? One of them is the way that I described where the human connection, right? And even the most extreme outliers of people finding a connection with someone else. And there is that moment, I think, when she turns from machine psychopath into a legitimate human kind of thing emotionally, where she's he's taken an overdose of his steroids, and she's on the ground with her hairpin. She's am I gonna fucking kill you right now? And then she doesn't. She decides to take him to bed, and then especially at the end, it's she crawls up and is help, help me, and there is serious emotion going on there. What was my original point? Help me circle back.
Well, it was kind of that was kind of in a response to my read of the melding of the machine and the human.
Ah, yes, thank you. So the other level that I was seeing this as is sort of what you're saying in terms of a fairy tale or magical realism, I guess you could call it, although this movie ain't so magical. But more that I feel on a certain level, this is an experiential film. I feel what it puts you through emotionally is as much or more of the point than the actual themes it's trafficking in. Because the movie puts you through this emotional and intellectual ringer where it's pushing your boundaries here and there, not just in terms of story and psychosis and all these elements, but in terms of gender. It has this question of gender fluidity that it's playing with, as this actress, by the way, her transformation is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I had to look up if they changed the actor because it was so stupendous, but becoming a man and then, I don't know. It's wild. There's so many tangents, brains just slithering off into all these different places.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it can be seen as an experiential film, I guess is the point.
That makes sense.
It's definitely,
sorry, go ahead, Joe.
No, I mean, I was just agreeing. It's definitely a film that the eliciting the emotions is probably more important than what's actually being shown. I think what's being shown is meant to make you feel a certain way, which is a huge part of the way that the film is able to get you to care about these really intangible characters, because you have a woman that's pregnant with a car and a guy who's sitting in his neon bathroom shooting up fucking steroids. All these characters are bad in a way, or in more ways than one, because some of them have killed.
Was there any relatability with Vincent there as somebody who had just lost a son?
No, because Vincent had an issue of egotism and vanity that had taken over his life, and I think his son left or might have I had a lot of like theories because his son was said to be kidnapped, but you know, he could have escaped and just didn't want to come home. I had a feeling that his son was very much like, this is the image of me, like this sculpted in the image of me, this retention of my blood in myself in a younger form. And I think Vincent really cared about that. And with losing that, he felt like he had to preserve himself to keep that thing he cared about intact. And so that's why he's like, I'm God, this is Jesus. Like, you know, he has a very strong opinion of himself and his lineage. So I kind of feel like he lost relatability in that.
You can see that in the way he treats Alexia, the lead actress. Whatever the son's name is supposed to be, I can't remember.
Adrian.
Yeah.
Adrian, that's right. That's correct. Yeah, you see the domineering element, and yeah, there are some... I hesitate to use the word grotesque shots, but they do feel grotesque. There's the triple image of him in the mirror, and he's just like this red lump of muscle, like injecting himself. And you're just like, oh God, it's like, it almost feels transhuman. Like this movie feels transhuman. Like she's transforming herself, not only from a man to a woman, but you also have transhumanism in terms of like giving birth to a cyborg child. And I don't know, certain images of him just felt like they were crossing the border into something else. Spectacular visual filmmaking.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to what Jeff was saying about Vincent's character being like, it's almost like he's lived in shame, right? Like, oh, I lost my son. Like, I'm a bad father. I'm like inadequate. I got to keep my body preserved and strong with these steroids. So when Adrian eventually does turn up, I'm going to be able to, you know, be there. And then he's incredibly possessive because he's probably, you know, it's like subconsciously he's already lost his first son. And I wanted to actually bring up at this point, in my opinion, I feel like Vincent is more like psychologically damaged and crazy than Alexia is. Like, dude, the whole thing with when he brings her back to the fire station and all his coworkers are like, what the fuck? And it's like, dude, you need help.
Do you think he knew the whole time though?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
do
He
you think?
did.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because you know he knows by the end because he literally says, "I don't care," and I was wondering if it was like a dawning thing or
No.
it's probably something he knew emotionally but took a long time to like figure out intellectually.
It was subconscious,
accept.
but I think he knew from. I wanted to say this about. I think he knew from the second he saw Alexia in the police station. Because he says, "You don't think I'm going to recognize my own son?" So there's like a level of egotism already right there. Is this idea of like, I would know my son, and then he sees right away it's not his son. Anyone with a fucking brain would see she looks nothing like that picture of the kid. And I think right there he breaks. I think that's the moment he breaks, where he goes, oh, I'm never going to see my son again. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is a lot. It's been so long that people are going to, like, pose as my son. And so I think he just accepts right there, like, I'm going to take what I can get. And he just takes her in. But this is all kind of, like, deep down. And he decides, like, no, I'm not going to believe that. And believes. And I love those scenes with the coworkers, Alex. Like, it's like when, like, a crazy person brings their, like crack fucking girlfriend in, and they're like, how pretty is my girlfriend? Like, dude, she has no teeth.
Yeah.
Like, she literally sucked off the busboy a minute ago. Like, what are you talking about? Like, and it's just like, there's just this aspect of like denial that's beyond
it's
comprehension.
pathetic.
And I love it. But on a side note, I mean, that's a weird fucking firehouse. Like, all the dudes are real weird. Like, they're all real handsy.
Yeah.
And they're having these, like, big sausage party raves.
I was going to say, I was going to bring up that rave.
It's so masculine and, and manly. I don't know if she was trying to make a point.
You know what, Jeff? It's from France, okay?
I guess change it. But, you know, like, it's just like dude's just like, oh, and like raving the whole time. It's just so like monkey man. I just don't know if she was trying to make a point about like
some point about masculinity,
male energy, and like dominating this profession of like being like
I don't know,
first responder,
man.
but it was just I just couldn't help die laughing when I saw that rave.
Especially when she gets into like her stripper mode, but she just looks like this like gangly weird dude.
Yeah, but I mean,
You're like, and you're sitting there like, what
that
am
was
I
so
supposed to be
cringy.
feeling right now?
that was so. I was like, oh.
That gets the Will Smith Award for most uncomfortable moment of the film.
Yeah, definitely. That's we'll give it that award.
We'll do some awards later, but we'll just do that one right now. I'm glad you like that one, Alex.
Deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah, it becomes inextricable at times where you're like, what's being said here? And at a certain point, it becomes so complex. I'm not going to say convoluted, but it becomes so complex and so deeply layered, and it's so like deep down in the emotional minutia of it that it's almost like you're trying to pull out the tendons of an organism when you can't really do that.
Oh, yeah.
You're just like, it's just in there, and you have to just accept it.
It's like even finding where I started from, like feeling-wise when I started the movie. You know, you try and like tie it all together as one long narrative, and like towards the end of the film, I had no concern with what had happened at the beginning of the movie, which was weird because I was actually really concerned about the parents, and then I was like, no, we're just shutting the door. We're locking it. And I, like narratively, it was kind of just like telling me, no, like you're not going to be able to tie up this end. So I get what you're saying, like trying to pull these like what is solid, you know? It's like you look at it, it's like that liquid that's like when you squeeze it really hard, it's like turns solid, and then you let it go and it just like oozes out, you know? It's like impossible to grasp anything, but it does a good job of keeping you entertained along the way and being very present. Right? Like you don't have to worry about where she came from or how this affects this journey. It just is all kind of happening. And I appreciate that aspect of the film.
Yeah, I was never less than 100% engaged.
Yeah.
I think there are concrete things you can say that it's about, that it's trafficking, and there's a concept of connection with people who are extreme outliers, like we've said a number of times. There's themes of gender identity in general, transhumanism, sort of autoeroticism. It's
definitely
just
transsexualism.
The list goes on and on.
Well. Like I definitely think that I don't think that his coworkers thought necessarily that maybe this was like. I mean, the one did know that he was a liar, but like there was also themes of like being trans and not being accepted as who you are. Like that's what I took that last scene for, where instead of having a realization that, oh, you're not like my son, as in you're not the same person, as in like you were my son, but now you're a woman, you've transformed into a woman, and I have to accept that. But it's almost like not accepting, because he's like, well, you'll always be my son, which is the worst fucking thing you could ever say to a trans person. So it's so wild.
You could definitely make an argument. You can make a solid argument that it's about transsexuality as well. There's just so much. There's so much. But to drop back to something Alex was talking about, there is a very sharp turn the movie makes that I wasn't expecting, right? I didn't really know much about this movie. I thought it would be more science fiction than it was. It has the sci-fi tag. And when it makes that hard transition, like when you say when she burns her family alive, and then it just goes into this really weird, uncomfortable family drama. I was like, is this what the movie is now?
Yeah.
And then after a little while, I was like, okay, I guess it is.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know where the hell this movie was gonna go. I really didn't.
I don't know if I've ever had like a volta or a turn like that in a film that was, it's not off-putting, but it's like, I don't know. I thought the beginning was going to be this like stylized, cool, like stab 'em up, you know, running around town trying to, like you said, escape from the fugitives while also simultaneously growing a Hemi inside of your belly. Like, I thought that was the fucking point of the movie. And then, like you said, she meets Vincent, and it turns into this whole other thing. I thought Adrian and the missing child was just kind of like a backdrop to the story, but then it became like that was what we were focusing on. And I was,
You thought she was gonna run away,
Yeah.
and it would become something else. But yeah, no, you're just Julia Ducournau is just pushing that envelope, and you're just watching it bend.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, how far is it gonna bend?
yeah.
Yeah, it was
shit.
incredibly off-putting because, like I said in the beginning, you would get this like intensely interesting story between these two characters that is beginning to take really thrilling turns, and then she would like go into her room by herself and like, my car baby is disturbing me.
Yeah.
I'm leaking oil, and you're like, wait. Yeah, that's right. This is happening.
She starts ripping her belly open, and you see the metal in there.
It becomes so weird all of a sudden, and then it tries to shift gears again. But that's why I tried to say, like, this movie controls its tone really well, and music is, I think, a really big part of this film's kind of success in its presentation, is because it really focuses on using the right music, I feel, at the right time. Like, it really relies on this like late 60s, early 70s like Austin Powers-y, like psychedelic hippie music, like during the killing scenes, and which, I mean, that's my favorite scene in the movie, I gotta say, is her going through that frat house, killing everybody. Like, God damn it, how many of you are there?
Exactly.
I'm so tired already.
Well, so we could get into some awards here. One of the ones we have is the I Drink Your Milkshake Award for most memorable scene. So would that be yours,
Definitely
Jeff?
that one for
yeah.
me.
Yeah, I like that award.
Right.
I mean, the
You
edge
just
of
want
the
us to
sink.
like the name of these awards.
I do.
Yeah, I love
really
them.
do. They're jokes.
But like the edge of the sink for sure. Like, I knew exactly what was going through the character's mind when she's like looking around the bathroom, like, how can I break my nose better? And she just looks down at the corner of the sink. I'm like, please don't go there. And then the camera goes underneath that corner, and you just see her coming straight down onto it. So that was definitely for me like the most memorable, because I don't connect a lot with physical pain in movies. Like, I can just kind of watch it, but this movie, it's like I can watch a dude getting torn apart by dogs and be like, whatever. But this, like a realistic scenario, I could slip tomorrow and hit my nose on the corner of my sink, and like I would feel exactly that. So yeah, that scene definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote these awards, and I've been grappling with even answering them myself, especially that one, because I want to say the movie. So I watched this movie like 2 months ago. I don't think a single frame of it has left my brain.
Oh.
Like, I could have easily done this show and not watched it at all. That was that effective to where, like, I could probably talk about it 2 years from now. It was that vivid. I think maybe the moment where she's grappling with her humanity when, like, looking over Vincent's, like, bloated fucking form, his bloated lobster red form, trying to figure out if she's gonna murderize him or not, and then making that decision was interesting. But I mean, there's when the mom comes back, when the mom of the kid that ran away confronts her and comes in the room and sees the real raw reality of what's happening. She sees this like pathetic creature oozing motor oil from her breasts, and is just like, you better take care of him. I don't know who the fuck you are, but you better take care of him. That might have been the scene for me. That might have been the most memorable scene.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, yeah, that scene was
Next
fun.
joke.
What? Nice joke?
I said next joke.
Oh, next joke. Oh, well, I had the Willem Dafoe Award for most erotic scene, but
What do you
I don't
think?
know.
I don't know. I know what erotic scene disturbed me the most.
I could do that. The Willem Dafoe Award for most erotic / disturbing scene.
Maybe.
It could also function. Their
I
Antichrist
know, when she
reference
was
here.
pulling on that nip ring, man. That fucking, I was like, woo! Like, just legitimately like grabbed at my nipples.
That's what I'm saying about this movie. It doesn't go for the big, like, blockbuster, like, we're going to show this human body getting thrown through a wood chipper. It's going to be something as simple as when girls have pierced nipples, their hair in the shower gets stuck in it. And sometimes you need help to take it out. And towards the end of the like, interaction, she was like, fuck it. Just pull it. And, like,
I wasn't
was
even
like,
talking about that. I was talking about when they were like making out And she's like sucking on her nips. And she
yeah.
has the nipple ring within her teeth.
Yeah,
She's
okay.
pulling on it, and you can see like the nip stretching. It's like, ah, don't fucking tear.
Because they bring it up earlier in the movie. There's like pain with the nipple, and it's like, oh god.
There's a lot of nipple shit in this movie.
Yeah, there is.
There's a lot of breast
breast horror,
hatred,
breast
or
stuff,
breast abuse. I don't know, it's weird.
It is interesting that in a film with something as obscene as like somebody stabbing themselves up into themselves with a clothespin in order to abort a car baby, the thing you can choose, and it's obviously like an actually a really good choice for most uncomfortable / erotic, is like that.
Yeah.
Right? Like just a realistic representation of like, oh God, no, not the nipple. You know?
No.
It almost looks like it's gonna tear, and it's really well done, and you're just like, no, don't fucking tear, because you can imagine that happening. I can't imagine someone snipping their clit off with some scissors.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I can't, but I can imagine.
Nice shout out to Antichrist right there.
But I can imagine someone pulling so hard that you rip a piercing out of a nip, dude. Oh.
Dude, I'm cringing just hearing this. We gotta move on. Well, the last one I have written here, and we can go into other stuff, is just the Phil Hoffman Award for Best Performance. Not a joke. He was just a really great actor, and that's our way of saying thumbs up to you, Phil, and the great beyond.
I want to say the main character, but Vincent.
Alexia, you think Vincent?
Yeah, Vincent.
Yeah, I'll go with the main character in this sense, just because she was quite a force throughout the whole movie, both kinetically and like her visage is just really like, she's really good at like playing like this dead inside kind of like look. And speaking to my machine theme, like there were parts where I actually thought she was operating on more of a mechanical level because of her acting. And then just like those bursts of humanity and like the fights or the party frat scene, But I'm going to have to go and make a weird one and give a shout out to the black dude at the party who she killed, who I did not think she was going to kill. He was like
a
nice
nice guy.
Yeah,
I don't know, there's something about like big bear, rough French black guys. It's just like, it's not like,
yeah.
I'm Jean. How are you?
Yeah,
like the dude from Inglourious Bastards.
Exactly, dude.
Like it's just like something about that character. It's just like you're like, yeah, dude, I like that guy.
Yeah, and
don't kill that guy.
And she did.
He seems nice.
She did.
Well, she did.
She did.
Yeah.
Stabbed him in the back with a fire poker.
I know.
Yeah, it's almost not fair because the two lead performances are so spectacular in this film. But I think for the element of understanding where his character was coming from, more so than I could Alexia's. Alexia was like a fucking alien to me, until I guess towards the end, but still I didn't understand the backdrop of who she was. Vincent is a little more tangible. I'm not going to say relatable because I don't relate to almost anything about him at all. But I could see where he comes from, right? I can see the elements of his personality and his trauma informing the performance. So just for that, I got to give the award to him. But man, holy cow, both of them just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
All three, both lead actors and the director.
The father, her father too, was good at playing an asshole, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, not many lines, but he was a great like body physical actor. You could tell through body language, and I like that he didn't age very much. And
I know.
She went from like 8 to like 20. She went from 8 to 32, and he went from like 42 to 48.
I know. 43.
He has like one more gray hair.
Barely at all.
Yeah.
That was like in the movie Alex and I saw called High Life, where Robert Pattinson ages not at all.
They give him
and his daughter ages like 15 years. Yeah. And you're like, what? It's very confusing.
He has a tiny gray patch at the beginning of the movie, and then they just make it bigger, like a little bit bigger, and that's it. Everything else is supple.
Can be hard to age people up in a movie. I get it.
Yeah.
You got to do young age makeup or old age makeup.
Or digital, in which that shit's
Or do digital
awful.
these days.
Hey, Salieri still best example, in my opinion, of aging a character. And, I mean, he's just a fucking monster of an actor. So he also
already had that kind of, like, like chiseled face.
Yeah, he was like
with like lines
Yeah.
and deep grooves. He didn't have like a smooth face that you were trying to age with lines. Like
Tom Holland.
the actor in his young days was already kind of like lined up, so making it a little more wasn't that hard.
Yeah, F. Murray Abraham was never, like on posters of walls of teeny boppers or anything like that. He could be.
He wasn't socking.
He was just he's only on Alex's wall.
Yeah, just a big old fucking poster of him.
Is him next to Pamela Anderson.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Is that the signal of Jeff's done?
Oh boy. Jesus.
Oh boy. Or is that just a bad joke?
This is a bad joke.
Okay. All right. Well, what about Guy Pearce for old age makeup in Prometheus? You guys remember that?
Yeah,
No.
but Guy Pearce too is kind of one
bad.
of those ones who like
It's not good. Old age makeup is too much.
he has
Oh, was
such
he
a
supposed to be
weird
playing
face.
Dr.
Wayland.
blah,
Doug
blah, blah.
Whalen?
Yeah.
I remember that. That was dog shit.
Yeah, that was weird because like Guy Pearce is
Jeff
already
even
kinda
more
aged.
unkind than I am here.
What about what's her name? Tilda Swinton in Suspiria?
I haven't seen the Suspiria remake. I
Oh.
really need to do that.
Wow,
It's totally up my
That was
alley.
actually something I wanted to mention with this movie was that I got like some very like strong like Suspiria remake vibes after finishing it, where I was like, wow, that was a lot.
I need to watch that too. I've never seen it.
Yeah, we should do that.
Shit.
Yeah, we
Let's
should
do that
this
on the
episode.
show. Someone can pick it.
Well then,
Who's next? Who's next? Who's next in the round table?
Caleb. Oh, Caleb.
Caleb?
Yeah, Caleb.
Alex.
Caleb.
I've been playing a lot with Caleb.
We just bring a
Alex.
fourth person on to just totally assert my pick.
All of a sudden, ba-doom, he
Yeah.
just joins
Yeah.
in.
You
Camera
guys just
on.
ignore me for the entire episode. I like show up to recording and everything, and just Caleb's there instead of me.
This is the brain trust. It's just you're
So
out.
so to bring it back, like, so this is, I know maybe this is like an unfair question, but it's like, how do you wrap up this film? Do you say you like it? Like, where does it fall in the cinematic lexicon for you? You know, like, where does this fit?
I would say watch it as soon as possible. If this is like weird, just general catch-all advice to anyone, watch it as soon as possible when you hear about it. And I don't know, like you're gonna go into it thinking that it's gonna make you uncomfortable for certain themes like sex and violence and some weird sci-fi stuff, but it will make you
Well, if you've
uncomfortable.
listened to this whole show before seeing
Yeah.
it, you have spoiled a lot of the moments, but I don't think that's going to be true
Yeah.
for any. I don't think anyone will listen to this whole thing without watching the film.
Very strong female, like, girl power presence in the film, right, too? Like, you can't really deny that aspect of it, so I don't know. I don't know why I feel like it's a film that needs to be watched now. It's just on fire right now. Critically, it just came out, and it's like, I don't know. It's like streaking through the sky like a comet. And I don't know. I just feel like you should catch it now before it maybe like is deadened a little bit by your exposure to films that will come out after Titane that will try and do the same thing. Get this one first.
Yeah, because it does feel very current, and it's difficult to say exactly why, except to like cast a broad umbrella over all the themes we've talked about that are very current. And it doesn't feel like lame
Yeah.
in that regard, right? Like a lot of things can. You're like, oh, it's tackling all the current issues of the day. No.
Yeah.
This is doing it because it wants to, and because it has something to say, and it has a way it wants to make you feel, and it's going to do that in a way you've never seen before, in a way you've never quite felt before.
Yeah.
Like I definitely put it out there in the outer borders of cinema, along with like Lars von Trier and shit like that. Like, and I think that I'm super excited that this is a filmmaker that exists,
Yeah.
and I love this movie. Thinking about it, and I was thinking about what we talked about last week or the week before. I was like, what was my favorite movie of 2021? And this might actually be it. It's the one that I've thought about the most since I watched it. It's the one that I was the most excited to talk about. Although The Green Knight, I was very excited to talk about with you guys as well. But The Green Knight did not push boundaries in a way that fascinated me as much as this. I think this was at least the most interesting movie of the year.
Yeah, I didn't think it was good. I didn't think it was bad. It just is what it is. You know, it's a film that has such a multi-layered theme and such a multi-layered voice to it. It doesn't sound like it's coming from one person. It sounds like it's coming from a lot of different women's experiences, different trauma experiences, all kind of being channeled through this director, which I think adds a lot of like just value and genuineness to the film. So I enjoy it for that, and it's beautiful to look at. I mean, that's just undeniable. Like, this film is just it's technically gorgeous, and you can't really go wrong. So yeah, I mean, it's a film that's definitely worth watching, but it can be a little bit of a kind of a turn away at sometimes.
Well, let me ask you this, Jeff. How does it stack up to Kung Fu Hustle?
So, I mean, if you try to compare movies like that.
I know, I'm just being a dick.
You're spending your whole life pretty frustrated.
I will say, it's more accessible than Von Trier, to go back to what you were saying, Jesse.
Do you think so?
I do.
Do you actually think so?
I actually think, like...
Yeah, this movie's like Suspiria light, let alone Antichrist.
It's like aesthetically a lot more engaging than some of Von Trier's works, and I feel like Von Trier's slow, and he's just as disturbing, but it's almost like in this weird gothic kind of frame where you're like, okay, this is serious. This is Von Trier. We're going to get dark. We're going to get gritty and weird. But this director takes some of those same themes, but like puts it through a different type of press, and puts a different spin on it, where I actually think for a normal movie-going audience, it's more aesthetically and cinematographically, if that is a word.
Cinematically?
Yeah, cinematically. It's just more engaging.
We know words that are about cinema. We talk about movies.
I'm a wordsmith.
For way too goddamn long.
Getting about there.
Word. Let's end it. Let's wrap it.
All right.
I think we're done. Do you guys want to give it a 9-minute standing ovation before we end?
Oh, yeah.
No.
Do our cans routine?
I'll do 18 for Jeff. I'll take Jeff's 9 minutes.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Well, we'll put that in after the credits or not. Well, thank you for listening to The Reel Weirdos. We're 2.5 white men with English degrees talking about movies for way too goddamn long. Talking about Titane. I loved it. It's interesting. Go watch it. Coming out with us on Twitter at Reel Weirdos Pod. That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah, that's what it is. And leave a comment below saying whatever. And we'll catch y'all in the next one.
Yep. Later. Titane my balls.
Chicka chaka chapo. Now our podcast is done, and we have to run. We know it is sad, but we had so much fun. Don't be bereft, Jesse, Alex, and Jeff. We'll be back real soon. The Reel Weirdos. We talk about movies for way too goddamn long. Bo 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 bo.